Madam President, I rise today to discuss yet another of the consequences of President Biden's policies, and that is and are the prices are going up, the price hikes. Families in West Virginia and across our nation are struggling because of the policies and priorities that these past 2 years have made essential items and goods seemingly unattainable. Whether it's gas, goods or services, energy prices, utility costs, small business expenses, owning a home, or simply affording to put food on the table, American families are squeezed at every turn. According to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, prices have risen 13.7% since President Biden took office. A recent report from the Heritage Foundation found that because of that staggering rise, the average American family has $7,400 less in their pocket at the end of the year. This is a timely topic today because the Federal Reserve has just announced the 8th consecutive interest rate hike they have had to deploy in order to curb this administration's 2-year spending spree, which is fueling our high inflation economy. But an interest rate hike, once reserved as a measure that sends a direct signal to policymakers, is just another Wednesday in this president's America. Chairman Powell warned last August that the continued interest rate increases and inflationary pressures would bring, quote, pain to households and businesses. And boy, does that ring true today. Meanwhile, President Biden continues to laud small inflation changes and slow economic growth. But he refuses to recognize his administration's role in the record high prices that the American middle class are continuing to have to face. On the further economic fallout Americans are likely to face, projected by many economists later this year from interest rate hikes in the past year. So let's just dive into this a little bit. Whether it's a conversation with Senate colleagues, waiting in line at a store, or a constituent calling my office, the cost of food remains a central topic of concern all across this nation. According to the most recent reports from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the cost of groceries went up 11.8% from the year prior. You hear about it with meat and eggs and bread and butter, all the essentials. To add to this, the cost of restaurant purchases is up 8.4%. In fact, the price of every food category has continued to grow at a faster rate than their historical averages. A recent PBS analysis also points out that America's rural population is experiencing their cost of living going up faster and lingering longer than those in urban areas. And that's a factor that disproportionately impacts people in my state of West Virginia. In the words of one West Virginian who wrote into my office, quote, how are we supposed to keep our houses warm and food on the table? And speaking of housing, it remains unaffordable because of President Biden's price hikes. Fixed mortgage rates rose from 3.4% in January of 2022 to over double, 7.12% in a matter of months. The National Association of Realtors Housing Affordability Index dipped below 100, signifying that average American families do not have enough money to qualify for a mortgage on a median-priced home. In other words, new families and hardworking individuals who made smart financial decisions with the hope of purchasing a home can no longer pursue that dream because it's out of reach. It's unaffordable. Moving to energy, something that's absolutely essential in the proud history and tradition of our state, my state, despite the recent downturn in energy prices, it can't be forgotten that Americans are still paying 30% more for energy. And at its peak in June of 2022, it was 70% more. With costs like this becoming more mainstream, actually gas is going up just recently, American families are having to choose again between keeping your lights on, filling your car with gas, or buying your groceries. This is not only unfair, but it's avoidable. It is avoidable for folks living in a country with as many resources as we have right here in the United States. It also shows that the direct impact on our families when leaders turn their back on American energy. Additionally, U.S. manufacturing industry has not been exempt from the economic woes created by this administration. The Institute for Supply Management's Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, that's a big clump of words there, fell into contraction category in November and December of 2022. Meanwhile, despite this, President Biden has been touting an historic manufacturing boom that doesn't really exist. The reality is U.S. manufacturers may be on their way to a recession, and the downturn will likely deepen as purchasing power decreases and interest rates continue to rise as they did today. This further demonstrates how out of touch the administration is from the devastating reality that American businesses are grappling with. So if you don't believe me, which I hope you do, but if you don't believe me, take it from my constituents. Back home, they write frequently to express the middle-class squeeze that they are feeling. Irwin from Mercer County in southern West Virginia said that current economic condition has created a choice for him between driving to work and feeding his family. Paige from Buchanan said something similar. She says, I have full-time jobs and 2 children. I'm tearful because I sit here wondering and looking at upcoming bills, and I'm having to pay a bill or buy groceries. Ronald from Cabell County over in the Huntington area. How do you propose that I continue to be able to live with increasing food prices, gasoline prices, and the ever-increasing utility costs? Jeremy in Raleigh County told me, my electric bill at my residence is double the cost of my mortgage every month. This is not sustainable. I will go bankrupt just trying to keep the lights on. But this isn't just impacting Jeremy, because Jeremy is a great family man and a great friend, and he is trying to help his friends, neighbors, and family pay their electric bills as well. So I'm continuously inspired by this kindness that I see and the generosity of West Virginians towards one another, but it shouldn't have to come to this. So my question to President Biden this week is, when is enough enough? Even in areas where we have prices that are decreasing in recent months, President Biden is trying to take credit when in actuality, prices are still much, much higher than when he took office. Now more than ever, American families need leadership, not misleading messages and attempts to take credit when it's not deserved. American families are asking for a path out from the hole created by the price hikes my colleagues and I will continue to highlight on the Senate floor today.